Welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. We are live today. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and today we are going to talk about ATRI, the American Trucking Research Institute's new report on issues facing the trucking industry. With me today, backstage, we've got Taryn. He is our producer today, and he is the one who makes all of this happen. So a big thank you to Taryn backstage. And I'm going to have my podcast director, Diana Cudmore, join me in just a moment. So let's discuss Silicon Valley's latest billion-dollar fail. That is where we're going to start our conversation. We are working through an interesting time in trucking. For many of the new people in the industry, they haven't seen this before. For some of us who, with the gray beards have been around a while, we've seen all of this before, but it does feel a little different this time around. So, Diana, welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report, our live edition. Glad to have you back.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
All right. So this is quite the time we are having in the trucking industry. Stories from the week of November 30th, right? A startup once valued at $3.8 billion has gone under. Convoy Inc. had big name investors like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. What did CEO Dan Lewis blame the implosion of this company on?
So he said that it was a massive freight recession and a contraction in capital markets. Of course, we're all living through that. We're all seeing it. And unfortunately, this state of the economy has been the reason for so many logistics startups, small trucking companies, small fleets, owner operators, and even some like large fleets. We've talked about Yellow before. That's a reason for them going down. Now, Convoy is kind of different because they're a Silicon Valley type startup. And they're coming to try and scrape some profit out of our industry. But so many of them, just like Convoy, have just been a flash in the pan. And in fact, a very good friend of our show had something to say about this.
Right. So Tyler from Diesel Laptops, he wrote a post about this on LinkedIn, and let's bring this up. Thanks, Taryn. So this is what Tyler had to say. 18 months ago, raised $260 million, established a $150 million line of credit, and was valued at $3.8 billion. Total raised capital over $1 billion. Today, company shut down, everyone let go, and trying to sell some of the assets. So, he points to the fact that a lot of people, they want to shortcut business growth and they want to get those big valuations. It's kind of in the DNA of the startup culture in Silicon Valley. And I also think that this is a bit of a testament to the fact that just because you got a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that you can come into the trucking industry and be successful. There's a lot of people who have underestimated what it takes to be successful in trucking. And so Tyler continues to say that throwing money at it, it often doesn't work out despite the hype and media attention. And then he points a big finger looking at you, EV market. So what do you think about this, Diana?
I think that he has a very good point. There are some highly valued EV startups, Tesla, and even more who are, they're the new shiny thing. They've got the sleek silhouette. They've got the modern colors, and they have zero sales. So, like,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Even if you have the modest sales to begin with on trucks, the reality is, like, we see EVs in specific vocations starting to take a bit of a hold, but this idea of widespread adoption in the trucking industry without any issues, without any challenges, like, it is going to be a uphill battle for EVs all the way. We're talking about changes coming over the next 2 decades, not just the next 2 months or 24 months. And the other thing that I see in this is I think we're going to continue to have technology companies try to help the trucking industry innovate and update the way they do things. That in itself is not a bad thing, not at all. But if you just think you're just going to come in here and you're going to easily change the way things are done, and you're not going to have some significant hurdles, and if you don't have a value proposition that makes excellent economic sense, looking at you, EV market, there's a lot of challenges to making this model work economically. We're in lockstep with Tyler Robertson on his opinion on this. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about audience participation. We have put this together, and these lives, and we're going to start asking for audience participation. That's the one thing that's great about doing a live broadcast is you, the audience, can comment in real time. We'll see those comments, and we will be able to respond to them live. On our podcast edition, we're also going to start to incorporate audience participation. It's just that the live is the benefit that we can talk to you directly. So if you want to make a comment, go ahead and do so at any time through the show. We will do our best. Our producer backstage, Taryn, will do his best to get those comments in. So what do you think about these startups? What is your opinion? Do you agree with the Heavy Duty Parts Report staff and Tyler Robertson, CEO of Diesel Laptops, or do you have another viewpoint? We want to hear it. All right, let's move on. The American Transportation Research Institute, ATRI, has released their 19th annual Critical Issues in the Trucking Industry report. Diana, this year something topped the list that hadn't for a while. What was that?
Absolutely. So the economy is the number one issue. And calling back to Convoy, everybody's blaming the economy for what's going on right now. Some other top issues were truck parking. I'm personally really happy to see that issue getting a lot of visibility, because according to the American Trucking Association, there's only one truck parking spot for every 11 trucks on the road. Which is like really awful. And apparently, on average, drivers spend 56 minutes a day looking for parking. That's wild.
Topping the list, fuel prices, the driver shortage, driver compensation, all of those things have made the top 5 for years. The order is different. And then we've got something new on the list, EV, or zero emission vehicles, which of course includes BEVs. But the economy being top of the list is not a surprise at all. We have everything in 2023 going in the wrong direction. Spot rates are down. Contract rates are down. Costs are way up. And ATA chairman Dan Van Alstine says that costs were up and demand was down, all while we work to navigate a number of workplace and regulatory issues. So when we look at 2023, we've all felt the impact of high inflation, interest going up on our mortgages, on our borrowing costs. And this is, it affects us personally as individuals, but companies are no different. They're going through all of these same challenges. And so if you weren't financially healthy, if you had too much debt, if you were not able to, if your margins were very thin, 2023 was the year that was probably going to break your back. And we saw this in the tunes of tens of thousands of small businesses, some large, as we mentioned, going out of business.
Very true. It's been a rough year, but Jamie, when I'm in my personal life, and I'm sure a lot of other people can relate to this, in my personal life, when I'm feeling the stress of the economy, when I'm feeling the stress of my ridiculously high mortgage rate, you usually have a really great perspective on this. So how about you share that with everyone who's listening?
So, as I said, a few of us graybeards, we've been through these cycles before. And I remember back in, the early 2000s with the dot-com crash. As a child, I lived through the high inflation and stagflation of the 80s. I lived through that time period as a child. I don't remember it as much as I do in the 90s, where growing up in Eastern Canada, we were as poor as you can imagine, and we had nothing. And so I remember those tough times as a kid. And then I worked through several major downturns in the economy. Like I say, the dot-com crash. We had, of course, the housing crisis in 2008. There was the commodity collapse in Western Canada in 2016. 2019, 2020, we have COVID. Now we have this. And when you look at the trends over the last let's say, a couple hundred years of Western society, basically every 5 years, the market, on average, every 5 years, the market has a downturn. Sometimes it's a little less. Sometimes we have a long run, like we had a historic bull run between 2009 and when the beginning of COVID happened. But here's the thing. When times are good, everybody acts like it's never going to end. And when times are bad, most people act like it's never going to end, and it's very discouraging. But these are cycles. And, I pulled some additional research here, Diana, that you didn't have. But today there was a report on truck parts and service, and it talks about the situation. And here's something to think about. So in the most recent forecast report that was released on Monday by ACT Research, they state the expectations for the freight market, that we're going to continue to bounce along the bottom in the near term with some holiday volatility and a change in trajectory over the next, or a change in trajectory on the way over the next year. This is a quote from Tim Denoyer, the vice president and senior analyst at ACT Research. He says, "We see retail sales turning back to real growth this holiday season after over a year of declines. The acceleration in real disposable income growth as inflation slowed sharply this year and the ongoing strong labor market support a recovery in goods demand. The end of destocking, rise in imports, and recent easing in oil prices improve our confidence that peak season will end on a higher note for freight demand." Translation: we are somewhere near, if not already past, the bottom of this cycle. What comes next is the upswing. And the cycle can be basically broken into 4 parts, right? So you have the bottom where we are now, you have the climb, you have the top, you have the decline, and you're back into the bottom. So the next 2 phases of this cycle are good news. Things start growing again. Things get back to some sort of normal. There's opportunity for growth. And this is what is just around the corner. Now, is it 6 months from now? Is it a year from now? All I know is that the trucking industry rebounds. It goes into the slide first, and it comes out of the economic slide first. And the trucking industry is always the canary in the coal mine. So while we've been struggling in 23, the rest of the economy, they know something's coming. Have we hit the bottom yet? Maybe not. Is it a soft landing? I don't know. Nobody can predict that with any great accuracy. But the reality is that we are somewhere in the bottom of this cycle, and the next 2 phases of this cycle are nothing but positive and good. I say that with one asterisk, and this won't make you feel good. I say this with one little asterisk. If there's like a tactical nuclear device deployed on the battlefield in Europe or in Asia, all bets are off, right? That's going to change everything. But barring some sort of like global unprecedented event that we've never seen before, or at least not in our lifetime, this cycle will follow the pattern and the trend that we normally see. And so if we are business leaders, we need to think about that very carefully, because while everybody's running in the other direction, they're shutting down, they're declining, they're maybe laying people off, selling assets, they're doing whatever. Where's the opportunity? Because a lot of people can make a lot of money in downturns. So and not everybody experiences the downturn at the same time. So there are segments of the trucking industry that are really suffering today. There's other segments that are doing really well. And it's our job to tap into those and capitalize on opportunities. So it's not all doom and gloom. Things will get better, I promise. And the cycle will continue, and we will be here for many years to come. And I think we've got some good times ahead of us. So
it makes me feel better.
That's where we're at. That's where we're at. Today I wanted to also talk about something that is very important to us. Like, human flourishing in heavy duty is our why. It's why we exist. We want to make heavy duty people flourish, because if they flourish, they take care of society. Safety and protecting heavy duty people is a big part of that. And we've got a great segment coming up that's going to really highlight the importance of doing things the right way with the right products so that you can protect heavy duty people. We're going to talk about that right after our break. This episode of the Heavy Duty Parts Report is brought to you by Find It Parts, your ultimate destination for heavy duty truck and trailer parts. Discover a vast range of parts at finditparts.com. Don't spend hours a day looking for parts. Instead, visit finditparts.com and get them right away. Boy, do we love our partnership with Find It Parts. They have been a wonderful support of the Heavy Duty Parts Report. Most of the products we talk about are available on Find It Parts. So if you are looking for any of the products we talk about, you should start with a search on Find It Parts. All right, Diana, set it up for us. I talked a little bit about the importance of safety. What do we have to share with our audience today?
So our friends over at Safe Fleet shared this story with us. Jared and Amanda Pridmore are the owners of Precision Auto Glass, and they're based in Conway, Arkansas. They had ordered a new van for their business, and they were waiting for it for over a year, as I'm sure many in heavy, medium, and light duty can definitely understand.
So
Now,
was this like a medium duty van? Like this is for like a box truck or something of that nature?
I don't believe so. I think that it was a lighter duty van. It was not separated between the front and the back.
Oh,
And
okay. Okay.
actually, that's exactly why Jared's wife, Amanda, she read about the importance of having some sort of partition between where you put your cargo and where you actually sit. She read about how important that was, how life saving that could be for the occupants. And she insisted that they do not use this van until that partition is installed. So let's hear from Jared about that experience with our first clip.
We finally received the van in. We ordered the partition from American Van. While we were waiting on that partition to come in, my van just sat here. I wanted to use it, but she wouldn't let me. She said, no, absolutely not. She said, we're going to wait on this partition, get this thing installed, and then you can drive your van. So, of course, I listened to her.
Smart guy.
Happy wife, happy life.
That's the truth. And so they got this partition installed. It was a steel partition from American Van, which is a Safe Fleet brand. And Jamie, it turns out that waiting to use that van was really a life-saving decision. Let's hear what else Jared has
Yeah,
to
well,
say.
I can't wait. What happened next?
What happened next?
I guess a couple of weeks ago, we were in a pretty bad accident. We were sitting at road construction in our van. Me and my worker, a drunk driver hit us at the cops said between 80 and 90 miles an hour. Completely destroyed my van, completely destroyed everything in it. 6 windshields centered directly in the middle of the van between the 2 seats. And when he hit us, all the glass shifted to the front, all the tools shifted to the front. Everything hit the partition. Partition held up amazingly. That glass, I mean, if we had not had that partition, there's no telling what would have happened. The glass would have definitely been in the front with us.
Oh my
Man,
goodness.
oh man. Yeah,
Wow.
like I mean 80, 90 miles an hour, and you're just sitting there to get that rear end collision. I'm glad it looks like he's okay physically, and thank goodness for them putting in that safety equipment.
Absolutely. Yeah. He made it out without a scratch. Thank goodness. So a little bit about auto glass that I learned. So we all know that the glass on our windshields is designed to be impact resistant. It's laminated, tempered glass. But it's only impact resistant when it's hit on its broadside. When it hits something on the side, it shatters. And each piece of that auto glass is 25 to 35 pounds. So if you imagine having a 25-pound bowling ball in your back seat and then
Explode on
having it
impact.
exactly, and
Yeah.
that auto glass, according to Jared, it'll cut you up, which I
Mhm.
completely believe.
It's like being
Um,
like having shrapnel shot at you.
exactly.
Yeah.
So Jared said that without that steel partition from American Van, he wouldn't be here today. But let's hear
What does his
from
wife
Amanda.
have to say? Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
You know, she's sitting there. She knew. She saw the issues and insisted on safety. So what does she have to say?
When I went to clean out what was salvageable, I was just sitting in the front seat because that was pretty much the only area you could get to in the van. And I turned around and looked behind me, and just all of the windshields and tools and things were smashed up against that partition. And I realized how really important that was there, because all of that stuff would have been up front with my husband, and that scared me.
Wow.
You see Jared, you see the look on his face, like he's tearing up right there, just like sucking those tears
Absolutely.
back into his eyeballs.
And like a woman's intuition literally saved this guy and his worker's life. Now, Safe Fleet, our friends, we've had them on the podcast recently to talk about camera solutions on
Mhm.
Class 8 vehicles, but they really do cover every aspect of commercial vehicle safety, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And that's why we wanted to share this story with you, because we want to encourage you, if you're operating commercial equipment, right from your pickup truck or van that you take to the job site to the heavy equipment that you run all day long to make a living, like take safety seriously. It'll
Mhm.
save your life. And Jared, we're so glad you listened to Amanda, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Jared and Amanda. So great episode today. Lots of good things to talk about. We've got challenges. That is one thing we can count on for the rest of our lives. It's never going to be easy. Being heavy duty requires resilience and strength, and we've got that in spades in this industry, so we're up for the challenge. Thank you, Diana, for putting this episode together. Thank you, Taryn, for doing your thing in the background, and of course to our main sponsor, Find It Parts. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. You've been listening to this live broadcast of the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin. Don't forget to follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can go to heavydutypartsreport.com and you can follow the show for free. And make sure you listen to our new episodes dropping every Monday. Thank you so much for following us on today's live broadcast. We will see you later. Thank you again. Talk soon.